Hello and welcome back. Tonight, we open a cold case file from the height of the Cold War. It is a story that feels ripped from the pages of a John le Carré spy novel. A puzzle of a woman who seemingly never existed, a ghost who checked into hotels across Europe but left behind no name. Her story begins and ends with fire in a desolate, icy valley. This is the definitive deep dive into the baffling case of the Isdal Woman. Our story begins on a cold Sunday afternoon, November 29, 1970, in the hills surrounding Bergen, Norway's second-largest city. A university professor was hiking with his two young daughters in a remote and rugged area known to locals as Isdalen, or the Ice Valley. The valley had a dark reputation, a place of medieval suicides and, more recently, a popular spot for hikers to lose their way in the treacherous terrain. As the family made their way through a remote section of the valley, they noticed a strange, acrid smell, like burnt cloth. A few moments later, they stumbled upon a horrific scene that would spark one of Europe's most enduring mysteries. Hidden amongst a rocky scree, they found the body of a woman. She was lying on her back, her upper torso and face charred beyond recognition. The scene was bizarre and deeply unsettling. Around her body was a strange, almost ritualistic arrangement of objects. A bottle of St. Halvard liqueur, two plastic bottles that smelled of gasoline, a box of 12 sleeping pills, Phenomol brand, a silver spoon, and the burnt remnants of a passport. But there was no sign of a campfire. The ground beneath her was rocky. It was clear she had been deliberately set on fire. The police were called and the investigation into the life and death of this unknown woman began. From the very beginning, the case was steeped in mystery. The Bergen police, led by investigator Carl Halvor, were confronted with a scene that defied easy explanation. The first and most striking clue was a deliberate and meticulous effort to erase the victim's identity. Every single label on her clothing, from her coat to her underwear, had been carefully cut off. The brand markings on the bottles had been scrubbed away. Her fingerprints seemed to have been sanded or wiped from any object she might have touched. This was not the work of a person preparing for a simple suicide. This was the work of someone with training, someone who understood how to create a ghost. The autopsy revealed more contradictions. The woman had died from a combination of carbon monoxide poisoning from the fire and a lethal overdose of sleeping pills. Soot was found in her lungs, proving she was alive when she was set ablaze. She also had a mysterious bruise on her neck, which could have been from a fall or a blow. The official cause of death was listed as a probable suicide, but the violent and bizarre circumstances screamed foul play. Who would commit suicide in such a remote, difficult-to-reach location? And why go to such extraordinary lengths to prevent being identified? The first major breakthrough came 2 days later. Based on reports of unclaimed luggage, police discovered 2 suitcases belonging to the mystery woman in a locker at the Bergen train station. They pried them open, hoping to find a name, an address, anything that would give her a history. Instead, the contents only deepened the enigma. Inside was a collection of clothes, all with the labels removed. There was a remarkable number of wigs, and several pairs of non-prescription glasses, suggesting a woman who frequently changed her appearance. There were maps, bus and train timetables, and a tube of eczema cream, which oddly also had its prescription label removed. And then they found the most famous clue of all, a small notepad. On one of its pages was a series of strange letter and number combinations, written in a neat blue hand. It was clearly a code. The police, now suspecting they were dealing with something far more complex than a simple death, put their best minds to work. After a few days, they cracked it. The code was not a complex cipher, but a simple substitution system, a shorthand diary detailing places the woman had been. It was an itinerary. The entries corresponded to dates and cities: 022, 028P, 029S, 029 030B, 030N, 01R, 5. The decoded message revealed a trail of a seasoned, methodical traveler. 22-28 October, Paris. 29 October, Stavanger. 29-30 October, Bergen. 30 October, 1st of November, Trondheim. 5th November, back in Stavanger. The woman from the Ice Valley was not a local, she was an international woman of mystery. This coded diary became the Rosetta Stone for the investigation. Working with hotels across Norway, the police began to trace her movements. They discovered that she was a ghost with many faces. She had checked into hotels using a series of different names, supported by different passports. She was Fenella Lork. She was Claudia Tielt. She was Vera Jarl. She was Elizabeth Linhoefer. She was Alexia Zarna Merquez. In total, they would uncover at least 8 different aliases, each with its own corresponding, expertly forged passport. Witnesses from the hotels all painted a similar picture. She was an elegant, attractive woman, likely in her late 30s or early 40s. She was well-dressed, with a commanding presence. She spoke multiple languages, including German, French, Flemish, and broken English. She was always alone, always paid in cash, and always kept to herself, often communicating with staff using hand gestures to avoid lengthy conversations. She had a strange habit of frequently changing rooms, sometimes even within the same hotel. On the registration form she had to fill out, she listed her profession as an antiquities dealer or a traveling saleswoman.
Interpol was alerted. A composite sketch based on witness descriptions was circulated across Europe, but every lead led to a dead end. The names were all false. The passport numbers were invalid. No country had a record of a missing person matching her description. Her dental work was unique and of high quality, featuring 14 gold fillings, but no dentist in Europe or beyond could identify it. The woman who had traveled so extensively seemed to have no home, no family, and no past. The context of the era is crucial to understanding the direction the investigation took. This was 1970, the absolute height of the Cold War. Norway, as a founding member of NATO, shared a sensitive border with the Soviet Union. Bergen, where the woman was last seen, was a key naval port for the Norwegian fleet and a frequent stop for NATO submarines. The Isdal Woman's bizarre, continent-spanning travels, her multiple, high-quality forged identities, her coded messages, and her meticulous efforts to erase her identity all pointed to one profession: espionage. Was she a spy? If so, who was she working for? Was she a KGB agent on a mission in a key NATO country? Was she a Mossad agent, as some have theorized, hunting a former Nazi hiding in the region? Or was she perhaps an agent for a Western intelligence agency, a double agent or a courier for a criminal or extremist organization? Her use of multiple identities was standard tradecraft for intelligence operatives. Her final days in Norway coincided with tests of the new Norwegian Penguin missile, a weapon system of great interest to the Soviet Union. The theory was tantalizing and seemed to fit the bizarre facts of the case better than any other. It suggested that her death was not a suicide, but a professional hit, a silencing. Despite the intense investigation, the trail went cold. Without a name, there was no case to build. In 1971, with no new leads, the Bergen police officially closed the investigation. The Isdal woman was given a Catholic burial in an unmarked zinc coffin to preserve her remains. The case file, filled with unanswered questions, was put away to gather dust. For decades, the story of the Isdal woman remained a local Norwegian legend, a footnote in the annals of unsolved crime. But in the 21st century, a new generation of journalists, filmmakers, and the power of modern forensic science have breathed new life into the cold case. In 2016, the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation launched a major investigation, creating a documentary and a podcast that brought the story to a global audience. They were granted permission to access the original case files and, crucially, to conduct scientific tests on the preserved tissue samples from the Isdal woman's body. The body was exhumed. The first major breakthrough came from a technique
Meta, literally. By analyzing the specific isotopes of oxygen and strontium in her tooth enamel, scientists were able to create a chemical fingerprint of the region where she spent her childhood. The results were astonishingly specific. They suggested she was likely born around 1930, in or near the city of Nuremberg, Germany, during the pre-war Nazi era. She had likely moved west towards the French-German border as a young girl. This scientific revelation provided the first real clue to her origin in almost 50 years. She was not just a ghost, she was a German girl who had lived through the Second World War. A full DNA profile was also extracted from her remains. Hopes were high that this could finally lead to an identification through genealogical databases. As of today, however, no match has been found. The ghost remains nameless. The story of the Isdal Woman is a perfect modern mystery. It is a puzzle box of contradictions. She died in a manner consistent with suicide, yet every action she took in the months leading up to her death suggests a person meticulously planning not an end, but a continuous, clandestine existence. She was an elegant, worldly woman, yet she died a brutal, lonely death on a frozen mountainside. Science has given us a glimpse into her childhood geography, but her name, her purpose, and her allegiances remain a complete unknown. Was she a spy whose mission went catastrophically wrong, forcing her to take her own life before she could be captured? Was she eliminated by her own agency or by a rival one? Was she a courier for a criminal organization, a woman escaping a dark past, or simply a deeply troubled individual with a unique and elaborate mental illness? Every theory is plausible, yet none can be proven. The woman in the Ice Valley created a labyrinth of false identities so complex that she successfully erased herself from history, leaving behind only her shadow. Her true name and the reason for her fiery, lonely end remains one of Europe's most haunting and enigmatic cold cases.